Hello out there, my name is Laulu Akode and you are on to Inside Sources. But first, two important news updates. Condolences and our prayers are with the family of the late Chief of Army Staff, General Taoreed Lagbaja. He was an outstanding soldier and he was an excellent officer. May his memory be blessed. And secondly, the Americans have now chosen the controversial billionaire Donald Trump to go back to the White House next January. Let the whole world brace up. Our opening segment today will discuss this further. And now my take for the day. There are now rumors and speculations that some politicians and former leaders, that is former civilian and military leaders, such as General Obasanjo, former Vice President Atiku, Aliyu Guzo, Rufai, Peter Obi, essentially those who are not aligned with the current set of national leadership in our country, they are gathering to reenact for 2027 the political wizardry that birthed the APC and that enabled APC to defeat PDP in 2015. But really, they can save themselves the trouble. Why? Because even if this move succeeds, it will merely replace persons at the top, especially because we are still dealing with the same characters who have played significant roles in how we got here. Instead, let us advance an elite consensus that goes way beyond political terrain and to reset our moral rectitude and redefine minimum standards below which we should never have to venture again in this country. Let leaders in and outside of politics, people who are politicians and those who are not politicians, let them come out and lead a charge for a national rebirth. The solution to the morass we are living under today will not come from politicians, and it wouldn't come from the state houses in Abuja or in the state capitals. It will have to come from among us as a people. It will have to come from our communities, our religious groups, and other social entities. Why did I say that? We have very deep challenges that go past our struggles with political leadership. As a matter of fact, our leadership challenges might be traceable to these deeper levels of rot and moral plunder. Let me explain. Some of the outcomes and events that rattle us when they come to the open, they are often a reflection of a deep-seated compromised system that undergirds our current dispensation and existence as a people. It wasn't so in the past, and hopefully this will not be forever, but certainly that is what we are dealing with in the last several decades. People at all levels perpetrate this kind of behavior. We are not setting political elites free of their responsibilities to lead by example and enforce order and decency. It is important to properly assign these moral challenges as well. It is a system that has become conditioned to mediocrity, if not outright inefficiency and corruption at several levels. It is a system that reeks of the inescapable traits of the decline in our moral values. For instance, how Nigerians, especially workers in agencies in charge of licenses, approvals, business permits, and all of that, how they constitute themselves into toll gates, extorting people who are trying to create jobs and commence new business ideas, forgetting that what those people trying to do is to create a new level of benefit for our entire nation. It is as if some of our people think that they can, by themselves, albeit corruptly, fashion themselves a solution to prosperity at the expense of the larger good. Equally, overzealous officials, and in cases even middle-level enforcement officers, have become extreme in trying to please the body language of their superiors. A recent example. How is it possible that in the name of the federal government, about 76 young Nigerians will be crammed in detention for months at first and then gleefully showcased in open court to our national shame without the knowledge of the chief law officer of the country? How are such decisions taken with so much sloppiness and a carefree attitude? Did you see that federal government lawyer who last week Friday was trying to justify the arraignment of the minors while speaking to reporters at the end of the court proceedings. One actually thought he was being sarcastic or was putting some satire in his speech until it became clear that he was actually saying what he meant. The lawyer, Mr. Rimazonte Ezekiel, had this to say that day.
All of them are adults. Most of them are married men. None of them is a minor. Some of them are university graduates. The small kids you are seeing here, they came with some of their parents to come and greet their loved ones. They are not even the real suspects standing trial in this case.
Beside the lies, it was the serious look on his face as he blotted out the fabrication that one found incredibly stunning. How did we become disingenuous and mendacious? Was that only part of our political leadership problem? Let me give another example. This time is simple national mediocrity. How is it possible that the Federal Executive Council, with the authority of the president, would decide to remove university teachers from IPs, and that would take 10 months before that decision could be effected? Why? Because the Cabinet Office didn't send the proper documentation to the head of the civil service. No monitoring, no follow-up until ASU started screaming several months after. Even in the markets, we see all kinds of sharp practices, so much so that if the consumer is not aware, he or she will easily become victims of fraud and sharp practices. And what many of our leaders do, political leaders, is to weaponize all of these systems, all of these things that we're saying, and reduce the problem to a political one meant only to displace a group of politicians from power in order for another set of politicians to ascend. And we see that happening already. It's the reason that inside sources have been advocating for an elite consensus. We have gotten to the point in this country that we need to understand that political posturing for power alone and by itself won't cure our national afflictions. Indeed, it will take an all-party, all-elite, all people-centered consensus from among us that we need to spend time and energy to make happen. Let's do it. Don't wait for politicians alone. And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Our opening segment today is on the recent development in the United States of America, where billionaire Mr. Donald Trump has been returned to the White House. To discuss this with me, I have two Nigerian public intellectuals who have worked and are still working with American University. Joining us from Boston, I have Professor Nimi Wariboko, MBA, PhD, who is the Walter Mulder Professor of Social Ethics and is the Director of African Studies Center at the Boston University. Professor Wariboko, you are welcome back to Inside Sources.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right, and with me here in the studio, welcoming him to Inside Sources for the first time, I have Professor Aminu Guzau, MNI. Professor Guzau is a visiting scholar and research affiliate of the University of Kansas, where he had taught for over a decade, and also visiting lecturer of the University of Abuja at the Sultan Macedo Institute for Peace and Development. He is also a former EFCC director. Professor Aminu, welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So let's start with Professor Aminu. What's your take about the election of Mr. Trump, and how do you think that affects the relationship between Nigeria and the United States going forward?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Laolu Akande. Well, I'm very delighted to be here, and somebody who really all his studies from a first degree to PhD all in the United States and taught. So that really made somebody to be very close to the community, especially the intellectual community. Now, nobody will ever expect that a convicted fellow, somebody who has been impeached 2 or 3 times, by the House of Representatives. Now we return back to become a president of the United States. But we woke up one day, because anybody who is saying Trump is coming back and confirm he is coming back, people will really look at him as, you don't know what you are doing. But it did happen. So the American people spoke. And the American people decided they need a change, and that happens. Now, coming quickly to your question, how would this affect Nigeria's relationship with the United States? Well, in different forms, but there is one reality we cannot shy away from it. The question is I'm asking question, within question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. People will be asking, is the same Trump we know who really became president in 2017 to 2020 returning back, or is it a different Trump coming now? Now, after, I think it was yesterday when he made a speech, he was for the first time talking about unity, uniting the country, talking about global issues that he's willing, to handle it. So going through what he went through, with attempted assassinations, actually twice. So hopefully Trump will now look at things from a reality perspective rather than from a stereotype perspective. So then if it's the same Trump, we had 2017 to 2020, then I would really say that, honestly speaking, there will be no hope. And the fact here is, whatever we say about our relationship or Nigeria's relationship with the United States is just a speculative. It's just prediction. People will be using the psychology they know about Trump to say what they think. But there will be two major issues that really we'll be looking at, whether that will be affected or impacted or whatever you call it. One, honestly speaking, it will be the issue of investment.
Okay.
Or in terms of trade, or relationship in terms of trade. If Trump continue with his rhetorics of America first, isolation, protection, then honestly speaking, there will be a problem.
Okay, all right. I mean, good opening comments.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to you.
Okay.
Let's take it to Professor Nimi Wariboko. Professor Wariboko, what's your initial take? How do you think the future of the relationship between Nigeria and the United States is going to be charted with the return of Mr. Trump to the White House?
Yes, so I would like to take it. First of all, thank you for inviting me, Mr. Laolu Akande. I really appreciate your program and what you are doing. But I would like to take it on three levels, what I would say, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the good is that Nigeria has a chance to recalibrate its relationship with the U.S. government, with the nation. So they can do things, and Donald Trump, President Trump, is a very transactional person. So maybe with working with Nigeria, they can iron out things that may be of benefit to Nigeria. So that is a good prospect that is here. But the bad prospect is that Donald Trump cares about countries with economic strength and military strength. And these are things that Nigeria does not have. So we may not feature much in this calculation. We may want him, but the question is, does he want us? So we may not really feature that much. And then on the being the ugly side, we know from his past statements and his past behavior, the man coming into office has little regard for the dignity of the black man or woman. So that is an aspect that we need to be very careful. His past antecedents, his antecedents tell us that this is a man that is likely going to promote white supremacy or even another form, America first in everything, and that might not always augur well for Nigeria or for Africa.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Professor Guzo.
Yes.
Just to follow up on what Professor Wariboko has said. Now, do you think that the leadership that Mr. Trump is bringing to the White House, do you think it will inspire, a global regard for America? And do you think it will inspire global regard from Africans, including Nigerians?
Including Nigeria. Well,
for the things that we know that America normally represents.
That's right. When we look at, let me just add this from what Prof, did mention. Like I said much earlier, Trump, during his tenure, he has, there are areas where really he showed concern Nigeria in terms of Nigeria's bilateral relationship with the United States. For example, he has really allowed or approved the sales of fighter jets, military hardwares to Nigeria to fight, Boko Haram, for example, and all sort of insecurity. So to be very honest, I'm far beyond that. And honestly speaking, I think, if I'm correct, the first person, Trump, after he won in 2017, to call, to talk to on the phone was Muhammadu Buhari, was the president of Nigeria. And I still think that he was the first person he invited to visit the White House. Though some people were saying, Trump can make some statement that life lays something, he was cracking his own joke and stuff like that. Right. But the point, he did show interest. Now, what Prof was saying, Trump now, honestly, that time, that was then, this is now. And now the whole globe is going through chaos. Chaos, in Russia and Ukraine, more chaos, in the Middle East. And he has to look, and he made some promises that he's going to, in one day, he would take care of. So the point I'm saying, and I'm really corroborating with what Prof, just says, that will Trump really have time to look at issues, particularly since we're talking about Nigeria, to say that, I have really time to look at Nigeria. And that's why I said he came. Even when he came, there was chaos. But the chaos of today is far, far. Some people were even thinking the Third World War, is about to start. So he has to be a great leader. As Nigeria, America, very huge, very big, a quarter of economy in the entire world. That's, if you look at it, that's an American economy. Okay. Just only a quarter. So it's a powerful nation. If it turns it back away from you, honestly speaking, you feel it. So now I think Trump, we are hoping, and that's what I said. Nobody can say that specifically this is what Trump will really do. And honestly speaking, it's important to share this. One of the things he says, after winning the election was that look at Wisconsin, for example.
Right.
The blacks, African Americans, 21% voted for Trump. This is unprecedented. And for the first, he was thanking the African Americans. That's number one. When I say African Americans, there are a lot of African Americans who are Nigerians. Nigerians, Americans, exactly. And then at that time, he also thanks, the Arab Americans and what have you. But we are more concerned with the Nigerians here. Now, one vital issue that I need to mention is on this issue of immigration.
Okay.
Now, how it will affect Nigeria. If Trump decided to do what he did, part of what he did last time and during his tenure, of getting people deportation, massive deportation, of course it will affect the economy of Nigeria, because the remittances by Nigerians to Nigeria definitely would drastically go down.
Okay. All right. Let's take it forward to Professor Wariboko. So in what specific ways do you think Nigeria and the United States can deepen their relationship, broadly and specifically? Prof.
Yes, so one of the ways that Nigeria can do that, which it has not done, is how does it tap into the huge Nigerian diaspora that is here, that are in different aspects of the U.S. society, from academics to technology, to business, to politics, right? So one way is for this government to find a way to say, look, one of the way to approach the U.S. government is not only government to government, but using Nigerian diaspora, the citizens here, to also be a form of advocacy for the issues of Nigeria, for the issues of Africa, for the issues of Black nation. So our government needs to know that the relation within the U.S. is not only government to government, but it could also be people to people. So if we have a critical voting mass, if you have a very successful group like Nigerians, how do we tap into them? How do we ensure that they feel connected to the country? And I was so glad that the children says, please teach us our language. So we are teaching Igbo, we are teaching other things, and I've put Yoruba on the line, and I'm trying to raise the fund to make sure that it's happened. And once it takes off, the assurance is that the Federal Department of Education will now take it up from there. I've already talked to them. So these are the kind of relationship that we want to build with the U.S. government from many different angles, not just foreign department to foreign department, a Minister of External Affairs, but we need to broaden the way we think about relationship with the United States.
Thank you. Very, very, very interesting one. Let's bring it to Prof here. So in the area of, just to take it off from where Professor Aribu said, we have a lot of young people in our population. We have, it's called a youth bulge. How can we use our relationship with the United States, to help our young people? Now that we have a president, according to Professor Aribu, who is interested in transactions.
Well, honestly speaking, yes, you see, I have to be very honest. I know transactional to create relationship, but then again, the world is mostly going transformational. Every movement you make in life, organizationally or otherwise, is transformational or ought to be transformational. That's how we bring about changes.
Not transactional.
Not transactional.
Well, transactional
sometimes encourage status quo. But we are going beyond status quo the way we are right now. And honestly speaking, let me quickly also move back, on Trump. Strong leadership. Not only on the aspect of the Trump. When I say Trump is looking at the Trump I'm seeing now, it seems as there is an emergence of emotional intelligence in him from the speech he made, after election. So let's wait and see. But the point I'm coming now to answer your question, honestly, I agree with what Prof have said, our young people. History, many a times, we make reference to history. If you look at the young people, look at what the government is doing now, trying to bring, and I'm praying that will work, bringing young people. That is what is used to be called a New Deal by President Roosevelt. So the point I'm saying, let's use this opportunity. For example, what this government is saying, let's not take things for granted. Get people who really can be able to make it happen. That's the only way we can create jobs within. Before even, people, because right now, to me, honestly speaking, job issues, there is need for declare, state of emergency on the young people. That's what is contributing to all. So I think we have the foundation is created. So looking at back what make America what it is today, young people, honestly speaking, we must recognize that. And finally, on this question, we need to get strong leaders in terms of, diplomacy. We cannot sit down like this and America will do that. There has to be people who have been, appointed, must definitely show they must put behind their own personal interest for the sake of the nation.
Sure.
Otherwise, we're going nowhere, honestly speaking.
All right.
And then, so the image we're fighting to now see that we can create this image. Look at Nigerians in diaspora all over. Look at the United States, what they are doing. Why not replicate it here? I'm just trying to corroborate with what Prof has said.
All right.
But thank you very much, my brother.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because of our time, we take it to Prof. Please make your final comment very quickly. You have last word. So I wanted to say that, is it a good time for us not to have an ambassador in Washington, D.C., Professor Wariboko, as you make your final statement?
Yeah, actually, it's I'm surprised that we don't still have an ambassador in the United States. I mean, we should do that immediately, because two things come to mind. The African Growth Opportunity Act, AGO, expires next year, and Trump, in his first term, said he's going to let it expire. And if you know AGO program, it allows Africans to export to the U.S. at no tariffs or so. But he said it's going to expire. And so we need ambassadors now before even he comes in to start the lobbying process. And also PEPFAR, the program that was established back, I think, when George Bush Jr. was in office to fund Africa with money for AIDS and other illnesses, that also Trump has said he was not going to renew. But let's say it's a new government, it's a changed person. But we need to
organize
have an ambassador that will be pushing for these things. So there are things that are coming that we need our men and women on the ground to lobby and make sure that Nigeria is on a good relationship, is in a good relationship with the U.S. government.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Professor Nimi Wariboko from Boston University, and also Professor Aminu Guzau, visiting professor here at the University of Abuja. Thank you for your comments. I think the last word from my part is to tell Mr. President that it's important to have that ambassador in Washington, D.C. To be set just before Mr. Trump takes over, so that both of you, being businessmen, can get some things going in the interest of both countries. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, as we continue the conversation on the future of our great country, I have with me an eminent Nigerian professor of sustainable development, who is also the Director General of the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies. I'd like to welcome to Inside Sources Professor Ayo Omotayo. Prof, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. So, I mean, you hold a very important position as the on top of the nation's foremost think tank agency. So it's actually very fitting to have a discussion with you on the future of Nigeria. So I'm just going to ask you that. Where you sit as the DG of NIPS, what kind of future do you see for our country based on where we are today?
Well, thank you very much. First, let us start by thanking Mr. President for taking certain bold steps in transforming the economy of Nigeria. Well, it takes a lot of guts for a politician like him to decide to go the route of economic reforms. So for us at NIPS, looking and studying the economic trends, we are told that at some point Nigeria would have collapsed financially. If Mr. President didn't take those steps he took, we probably would have thought that we were doing okay, but then it wasn't going to work at the end of the day. Because I must tell our viewers that oil is gone. And if oil is gone, and we still continue to pretend as if oil was there, like it used to be 10, 15 years ago, Nigeria would just have suddenly collapsed. But with the agenda of Mr. President to reset the button and put Nigeria on a different trajectory, I believe there is a whole lot of hope. I've always told people that any transformation is tough. It's difficult. A whole lot of people would have to make drastic changes. We have to make critical changes to a whole lot of other things. and that unless we stay the course, we will not do well. But since Nigerians have decided, I believe so, and a whole lot of critical developmental areas are following the prompting of Mr. President for us to transform our economy, I believe there is a whole lot of hope. And I'm sure very soon we will begin to see the benefits of these economic reforms. Because if we talk about Nigeria today, we are basically challenged economically. And for people who have the figures, you certainly will know that there are just very few choices. If it's either we correct ourselves right now, as Mr. President is doing, or we keep kicking the can down the lane, and somehow we will still have to pick it up. Yes, I mean, these are tough times, and I understand how many Nigerians feel. But then our future is also very important. So we take the hard stick now to enjoy down the line, or we keep deceiving ourselves that all is well, and then suddenly something untoward happens. So, I mean, we are all living witnesses to what happened in Argentina about 10, 15 years ago, when their currency just suddenly went down. You know, people feel that Nigeria should keep defending the Naira, but with what dollar? You can't keep defending the Naira. The Naira just must perform. And how can the Naira perform? We need to be productive as a country. And I always tell people as individuals, we have to ask ourselves on a daily basis, have I been productive today? What have I contributed to the economy of Nigeria? And I'll tell you something, Laolu, it's unfortunate that most Nigerians don't even understand how an economy runs. Everybody talks about, oh, America is this, America is that. And I told somebody, I said, do you know that America does not own any oil? It does not own any mineral resources. All it gets comes from the taxes that those who operate businesses, individuals, pay as taxes. That is what America
do some exploration, some oil production.
Yeah, but it never belongs to the American government. They only give licenses to the landowners. Right. Yes, America never took land from anybody.
True.
You know? So if you have your reserve, if you find anything on it, it's yours. But then if you're going to exploit anything, you pay your taxes. So for us in Nigeria, we must understand that the resources of government will come from about 2-3 main sources. For us in Nigeria, we are almost getting nothing from income taxes. Not up to 10% of Nigerians are actually paying taxes. Yeah. Meanwhile, if we compare that with America, I'm sure it's like in America, paying taxes is as important as breathing. I'm sure 90% of Americans are caught in the tax bracket.
People in the US will say that there are two things that are certain
yes.
in life. You pay taxes and you die. But I want you to deep in a few things that you said. So you said that oil is gone. You know, it's important to...
Well, I said it was going to figuratively, it's not going to have that pride of place anymore. Yes, we're going to struggle to try to up the tempo, try to get more investment into it. But Lalo, I tell you, we have to start looking elsewhere, and we have to start looking elsewhere seriously.
But I want you to explain to our viewers why that is so, because, you know, what's the most of our people understand is that, look, we have quite a lot of oil reserves, you know, and all we've got to do is to pump it. Now, I understand that when you look at the issue of climate change, the move towards net zero emissions and all of that, you know, the progress of electronic vehicles, you know, and a lot of alternatives. You know, but most Nigerians don't get that. That's why
I mentioned it earlier that we don't have enough education, and I don't know who is going to give the education. Now, if you take oil now, you already mentioned the matter of climate change. Everybody is running away from fossil fuel. Okay. Now, there have been a lot of technological advancement in other alternative energy sources.
Yeah.
I think by 2030. All vehicles driving in Germany or most of Europe will be driving on different sources of energy. And these are the major consumers of this oil. Now, we can keep investing, trying to look for oil. But ultimately, we get to a point where the oil will be there, but nobody will be needing it because it's just one source of energy that became so important, and for so long, it made those who have it very rich. And of course, if something is making me rich, I'm not going to encourage any other sources. But the world has opened up to the fact that there must be alternatives. And of course, as an environmentalist, I know that there must be an alternative since science has proven that fossil fuels put together are causing a whole lot of problem in the atmosphere. So it's just a matter of time. Yes, in the short term, Nigeria may try to up the tempo in terms of exploration and then trying to sell. But we had better started looking at the alternative sources of energy for us. Our budget of 2023, we worked on the energy sources, alternative energy, and we had recommended then to the federal government that the CNG will be the transition fuel. And I'm happy that government took up the adoption. Yes, but I'm very sure that government is looking at how they can encourage private sector investments in it. But you know, if it's going to be a new sector, and of course there'll have to be regulation, a lot of things have to be put in place to encourage investment in that area. It shouldn't be the federal government again that will be investing in CNG conversion kits. Yes, they can encourage the takeoff, but then I believe they should open it up. I'm sure they will start, government will open it up for private sector investors, and then it will affect the whole economy positively.
Actually, I think, is it NIPCO? Actually, you know,
yes.
One private business that had the meeting with the president, I think, a couple weeks back, you know, also came in to say that they were investing quite a bit in that. But I wanted to shift gears a little bit, you know, just so the people can understand, you know, the role that your agency play in all of this. So the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, you know, what most Nigerians know about it is the MNI. You know, that's the people that go there, they get MNI, and you see them wear the button, you know, with a lot of pride, you know, and rightly so. Can you explain to us in a very in a summarized version, what is the role of NIPS, NIPSS, you know, to Nigerian development in a very summarized
Okay, thank you, Laulu. Certainly, we don't say NIPSS, we say NIPS.
NIPS, yes.
NIPS for short. And we have existed for the past 45 years. When General Obasanjo was leaving, he saw a large gap in capabilities of the ruling class to take over the democratic, to take over the reins of running government at that time. And then they set up NIPS to train and encourage Nigerians to think strategically and to develop policies that will work both for the short term, medium term, and on the long term. So our mandates have not been different from what it has always been. The MNI you see the participants wear is just like an icing on the cake for all of the hard work they put into coming to NIPS. You know, when you come to NIPS, you are there for 10 months, and during the period of 10 months, you are almost like in a lockdown. You know, imagine the big men that they sent to us, keeping them down in the institute. They only get 3 exits for the 10 months, and they are allowed to be late for engagement, studies, and rest of it for not more than 20 minutes overall. So it's actually a place where people come and make a lot of sacrifices, working on a theme. Because what happens is that every year, Mr. President chooses a theme of study that he wants to have a better understanding of, and that he thinks can change certain things in the country.
All right, so let's talk about, you know, strategic planning. So Nigeria wants to be a member of the Security Council of the United Nations. You know, this last UNGA, the issue came up. The president's speech also asserted it. It seems that the current power levels at the UN have said that, okay, look, we should give 2 seats to Africa. And Nigeria says, okay, we should get one of it. What is the plan? Or in your view, is that a goal? Is that a strategic goal that Nigeria should be interested in? And then this whole idea of Nigeria being the giant of Africa, a lot of people have said that we don't look like the giants right now. Do you think that those kind of aspirations that speak to prestige, do you think that those are the kinds of aspirations that we should be focused on as a nation at this time?
Well, you see, governance has several sectors. And of course, government also will have priorities. The good thing is that the federal government at this time does not have to put too much effort in pursuing taking one of the seats at the Security Council. 15 seats are open, and then in the past, the Big Five will decide who takes the 15. And you alluded to something that are we truly African giants? One thing I would say that NIPS has afforded me is the opportunity to travel around African countries. And when I go to some other African countries and I just look back at Nigeria, I say, why don't we believe in ourselves? Some of these African countries even have economies that you cannot even compare with the economy of maybe Kano State. And they are a country. You look at some places, the urbanized areas are so very specially little that you wonder and say, why do countries like this compare themselves to Nigeria? Yeah. Not because I'm in Nigeria, but if you look at the size of our economy, the number of intellectuals we have everywhere in the world, it is in the best interest of AU to say if there will be 2 seats going to Africa, Nigeria should be given 1 African permanent seat, and then let other African countries rotate the rest. Not because I'm in Nigeria, but that is how I think it should be. Maybe we can then say, maybe after 4 or 5 years, there are some other countries that are doing well in Africa that you expect that, okay, they too can have permanent seats. But at different times, we should look at our top 5 countries, mainly South Africa. Let Ethiopia join the group, making 3. Let Egypt join, making 4. And Nigeria is doing very well right now, making 5. Let those countries rotate it amongst themselves. Because I look at a little country like Benin Republic. If Benin takes a seat as Security Council, with what are they going to even push any agenda? The resources are not there. The figures, the parameters to push it won't work for them. So for me, I think AU should look at this thing thoroughly, choose its best 5 countries, and let those countries rotate the permanent membership amongst for the 2 seats that is going to be given to Africa. One thing about Mr. President is that I believe, is preparing for this, because he has charged us to look for pathways to ensuring that Nigeria becomes $1 trillion economy in the shortest possible time. Now, if we become $1 trillion economy, okay, we'll certainly have the stature to ensure that when we occupy a seat, we will certainly make the best use of it.
What's the timeline for that?
Yeah, you can't see it.
In a decade.
I mean, we at NIPS are a bit optimistic. I think next week we'll be taking a proposal to the coordinating minister of finance of the economy, and he's looking forward to it. You say, let's have a stakeholders engagement on how we can get to $10 trillion. You are not going to sit in a place and say it's just going to happen. We have to be intentional about it. And I'm sure if the stakeholders engagement happen, we will be able to state clearly the pathways to the $10 trillion economy. But for us at NIPS, we believe it's something Nigeria can do within the next 5 to 7 years. I mean, we've taken a costly perusal of the economy.
So you think that Nigeria can become $1 trillion economy?
No doubt at all.
Within its next 7 years?
5, 7 years, yeah. It's not too difficult. It's not too difficult. If, unfortunately, we don't have ambassadors right now. The top 8 economies in the world, if you send ambassadors there, you charge them with responsibilities of ensuring that they encourage the countries where they are to invest at home.
As the one in charge of strategic thinking, do you get the opportunity to advise the president on stuff like that? That look, we don't have ambassadors for 1 year. Sir, can you consider that? Is that part of your responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, Mr. President expects us to advise him. Okay, so it does not restrict us from what we can do. Certainly, when we have the opportunity and we feel this is what is the major problem right now, is settling and letting Nigeria understand why, as a first step towards becoming a trillion-dollar economy, is to defreeze the oil sector. You can't keep subsidizing the oil sector and then you want to become a trillion-dollar economy. That's your most critical sector. How many people are playing there, and how many people are actually playing fairly?
The level of investment in oil and gas has been very poor in the last decade or so.
So, Mr. President knows what he's doing when he says trillion-dollar economy. Yes, oil will play a role, but there are a lot of other areas. You will notice sometimes in July we had a stakeholders engagement on the mining sector. And we know what the mining sector can contribute to the GDP. We just need to tighten our belt. Very soon, we are going to run a course for the security agencies on how to identify the sand. The Oyinbo man comes into Nigeria, they tell you that this is an ordinary sand, and you think it's ordinary sand.
Because they take it away.
And they take it away. Okay, well, if it's just ordinary sand, what are you doing with the sand?
Just sorry to interject you. I wanted you to comment on this, and we are wrapping up because of time. I think one of the things that we have failed to do, especially in dealing with this recurrent problem of insecurity over decades now, is that we have not developed our military-industrial complex. The level of the problem that we're dealing with and the kind of money that we have spent on security over the years, shows clearly that we ought to develop our own military-industrial complex. I mean, build, construct, manufacture some of these weapons. We have DICON, but DICON is underinvested. And we have not taken the opportunity of this festering security problem to develop our own military industrial complex to produce some of the weapons, and it's not because we don't have people who are already, even in private sector, that are already showing interest in, but we haven't used that opportunity. What do you think about that?
Yes, I agree with you that we probably have underinvested in the military-industrial sector. And I understand that DICON is being resuscitated. Mr. President is doing something about that. When I mentioned to you that NIPS will soon release its papers on the use of technology to fight terrorism and all other forms of insecurity issues, I was thinking about what we're going to advise Mr. President to do through empowering DICON to do certain things, through empowering AFIT to do certain things. For us, I think we have studied this situation, and we know that we need to bring them into the fray.
That's DICON.
Yes, DICON. The whole of the military complex must come together and determine that this is what we need to begin to do. There are some other challenges you have that, if you want to have that kind of sector come back up, you need your steel, the iron and steel technology. Because weapons are basically lead sealed in steel. We ask, do we have this? But there are signs that there is nothing Nigeria cannot do.
I have one or two questions that I wanted to cover before we go because of our time. The Americans have elected Mr. Donald Trump for his second term. How do you interpret that in terms of Nigeria's foreign relations?
Well, I don't know how the Nigerian government would eventually react. But then from the antecedents of Donald Trump, we know he cares only about America. He says American first, make America great again, and he feels that his country is not where it should be. He's been giving out too much, he's been supporting too much. So for us as Nigerians, we have to sit up and begin to think about Nigeria too. We are not going to get anything easy from Donald Trump. He's going to look elsewhere is going to look inwards to solve Americans' problem rather than looking forward to solving Africa's problem. So it is an opportunity for us to brace up. Yes, we'll find other partners. China is more than willing to support us. We have the BRIC countries that we can also look up to. And then if you look back, you have to ask and say, okay, let us actually measure this. What has America actually done for Nigeria? If we ask it to measure, you say, okay, take America, take United Kingdom, take Germany, take France, put them one by one, take China, and then set up parameters. We will discover that more of what we do with America is word of mouth. Oh, we hope this will happen.
It might be we except in one particular instance in the last probably 5 years. Remember that the Barack Obama government put an embargo on the supply of military jets. They didn't give us. Barack Obama never.
That is to show you.
But Donald Trump did. It was actually under Donald Trump that those fighter jets was actually supplied. He
was just more bothered about ensuring that his company is selling. If it pays America, he will do it. But to expect that Donald Trump would do something no scale, well, if it comes, you just take it, but don't bank on it. What we need to do as a country is to look inwards and position Nigeria in such a way that America will be needing us. If America needs you, certainly they will come. So we have to ensure that position ourselves in a way that we don't need America that much that they should be needing us. But we have other strategic partners. Mr. President is smart enough. He set up a China-Nigeria strategic partnership, and he put a whole director general on it. So it means that he probably anticipated that. And of course, he started looking elsewhere. And when you say, what are the things that NIPS has been doing? 3 months ago, we did a brief on it. Okay. And Mr. President executed.
On the China...
Yeah, that we need to take our strategic partnership with China very seriously. And the good thing is that we started it before Trump lost, so they will know that we actually want to be their friend and we believe that they can give us some...
before Trump...
Oh, no, yeah, we did. Mr. President, give it to him. He's smart. He set it up. We went to China. He set up the strategic partnership
with
China. Put a whole very important personality there, Mr. Sukomi Tegbe. And I'm sure Mr. Sukomi Tegbe, he has started doing his work. I've spoken with him. We have something going on with China. We've shared papers, and he has more than enough intellectual support to back up. And we believe that what we are targeting is that we do strategic partnership with China that will contribute minimum of 7% growth to our economy. That's what Mr. Tegbe is trying to do, and I wish him well. We'll give him the necessary support.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Final question. The people of Niger Delta have not been very happy with the president over the policy decision to merge all the development commissions together. They are saying that, look, President Yar'Adua gave them the Ministry of Niger Delta, and now the president has brought everything together. In the argument of the president, is saying that, look, now we have Niger Delta Development Commission, we have Northwest Development Commission, Northeast Development Commission, Southwest Development Commission. That it makes sense to put every development, commissions or whatever in one place. That's the argument of the president. But they are saying that no, Niger Delta is a peculiar situation. As a strategic thinker, what's your take on this? A strategic thinker for government, what's your take on that?
Well, certainly, taking Niger Delta Commission to make it broader and include other commissions shows one thing. Every sector of Nigeria is important. Yes, the Niger Delta is important. They probably have a large reserve of oil, and for some time we've been taking a whole lot from that area. But it does not mean that other areas have not been contributing. You see, if you look at oil does not actually contribute so much to our GDP. It's just
but we get a lot of our foreign
exchange from it, but then you still have to operate internally. So I think they just need a little bit more of education on how it does not affect them negatively. If it does not affect them negatively, and they understand that that is actually the fact, I'm sure the people of Niger Delta are liberal enough to also believe that why shouldn't other sectors benefit? So one thing I want to assure them is that Mr. President's plan will not affect Niger Delta negatively. It is just to ensure that there is better coordination of all of the commissions. Mr. President cannot work against the Senate when the Senate decides to have a Northeast Development Commission. Okay, we have a Southeast Development Commission. Okay, these have become part of our system, it become part of our law. But then it says, let's bring everything together so that I can have a farmer understanding, a farmer grip on and control the development in those areas. So for me, I would just appeal to the people of Niger Delta to be a little bit more patient, and they will clearly see that the formation of the ministry will not affect them negatively.
It's not against their interest.
And that they should not put too much hope on the nomenclature that something is no longer Niger Delta. It's about bringing together everything under one single ministry. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And just to piggyback on what on your argument, the president has kept a Niger Delta person. As minister for regional development. So, I mean, at the level of political appointment, Niger Delta hasn't even lost. Thank you so much, Professor Ayo for coming to Inside Sources, and thank you for your insights, and thank you for the great work that is happening in NIPS. We hope
very much
that we see more of NIPS, especially dealing with the current problems of the day as you have articulated. And, greetings and regards to all the MNIs. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much, Alaolu.
And that is it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. We believe it. That is why we are here. And we sure believe that it will happen in our own time. My name is Laolu Akonde, and thank you for watching. I'll see you again next edition.